Alright, this is another video on the First Read series where I read a poem by a poet I don't know or know very little about. I pick these at random typically, and I just do a first reading for the sheer joy of reading poetry. I might come back if I had to teach this or something later on and come up with a completely different reading, stack it differently. But this is just a straight up joy of reading, beginning connection with the poet. This one is from Odalus, the magazine of many e-things, as it says. It's an Australian magazine. Lately they've been doing these great Vispo collections, which is worthwhile to check out. I know a lot of those poets, and I'm not going to touch on those right now. But Anna Cates, I don't know anything about her. I picked this fairly randomly, and it called to me because the Old Faithful in the title. So when I look at a poem, I always look at the form first, even if it doesn't get me anywhere. I like to see just what it looks like on a page and what connections it's making. This one looks like free verse on the page. It doesn't look like a more traditional form, but we'll see when we read it. That might change. Old Faithful in Wyoming. I'm assuming this is the Old Faithful at Yellowstone. Old Faithful in Wyoming wilderness. A friend and I paused in sight of a steaming geyser. I like this in Wyoming wilderness. It's not Wyoming's wilderness. I like that play here. Paused in sight of a steaming geyser while the sunset screamed in orange and violet fire. Alright, so we have these first two stanzas tell a nice little story here. I'll come to the next one because it looks like it goes in a different direction. These two stories of a friend and I looking at the geyser, and the sunset is screaming with this, these great colors of fire, screaming fire, which is playing off a little bit of the geyser, the hot of the geyser, but also the color of the sky, this kind of connection here. So a very vivid image of nature, like showing off in its colors and beauty, as it is for these two people sitting there. So straightforward. What I get from this is not an in-depth, philosophical statement. It is literally just an emotional experience as being there with Old Faithful, with the sunset, the sense of fire, just being there in nature. So the last stanza goes, snow glistening in a dog bowl, first stars. That feels very haiku-like, with a little story above. This feels like a haibund, although it doesn't have the traditional form that we use in English for haibunds, with a kind of prose poem with a little haiku after it. It feels very much like a haibund. So let's look down at the note really quickly about this person. I could graduate of ISU, National University. Her first collections of poetry, fiction, meaning of lifetime, and not published at Cyberbit. Collections previously published haibun. Alright, so that sounds like I'm right on with that a little bit. This is a play on the haibun form. Haibun, you have the nice contrast between the story, usually in the haiku form. We're getting that here too, the story being in the wilderness in Wyoming. Seeing the geyser, seeing Old Faithful, and the sunset. And then you have snow glistening in a dog bowl, first stars, which takes it in a completely different direction. Which, if you've read enough haiku, see how they work themselves. Haikus often work that way, so the first two lines will be one thing, and then they'll shift direction and go into a new direction. That's happening here. Interesting enough, it kind of takes this nature image and undoes it with this last bit. We have snow, yes, nature, but glistening in this dog bowl doesn't seem to fit quite the same way with experiencing nature and stuff. First stars. It's like we've shifted to a different scene. Still very close in on the image here, but a very different image in this last section. So we can try to put them together, connect them, but I don't see the connection between the first two stanzas and the last one. Doesn't mean there isn't one, but I think one of the nice effects of this haibun can be this like difference that you get in a poem. You like two different experiences in the poem. So interesting little poem. I'm curious to read more in this kind of playful Haibun form. I think it's interesting to take the Haibun in a new direction. So it was fun to read.